The highest rates, and COVID-19 is only accelerating the health issue. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and Bryce Perry, a Manitoban living with Parkinson's, joins me now to talk more about what life is like with this neurological disorder. Bryce, thanks so much for taking time to speak with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Marley.
Maybe you can start with a bit about your story. I understand you started experiencing symptoms at just 40 years old. What was that like?
Yeah, I was 40 years old, just turned 40, and my right arm, my right hand started twitching every once in a while, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, and kind of maybe just thought it was stress or something to that degree. And as some more time went by, it progressed, and as it went, from the twitching of the hand to more of a tremor, and then progressively down to my entire side of my body, down my legs and my feet, and it was kind of scary, actually.
I bet. I can only imagine. Many people believe Parkinson's is an older person's disease. Even your doctors were reluctant, I understand, to diagnose you.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a stigma with Parkinson's that, it is an older person's disease, 55, 60 years and older, but, it's on the rise right now, especially in younger people. And, it took me almost 2 years to finally get a diagnosis, which is difficult because, I went from neurologists and through so many tests, it was unbelievable. And no one really being able to tell me what it was and what was wrong. And there's such fear there when you don't know what it is, right? So very difficult to diagnose, and very difficult to find someone who is, I was told as I went to different neurologists, I was just told, well, you're too young, so don't worry about it. And so it was very difficult. Yeah,
that would be frustrating because I understand early detection is really key in treatment, isn't it?
Well, it is absolutely, because there's in more than one way, emotionally as well as physically. The sooner you can get on an exercise program and physiotherapy and get on the right medication. It takes a while to get the right how much medication to take, but as well as mentally, because there's especially no matter what age you are, when you're told you have a disease that there's no cure for, you go through a battery of you go through different a grief cycle and depression and different things like that. So the sooner you can get a hold of it and understand it and be able to research it and get on the right medications and the right kind of lifestyle changes you have to make, the better you're going to be in the long run.
Yeah, this diagnosis was difficult for you. In fact, you hid it from friends and family for some time, didn't you?
I did. It was, when I got finally diagnosed around 42 years old, I have a young family, a wife, 3 kids, and a career. And, I didn't want a stigma to be around me, like, especially I didn't want it to be, limit my career possibilities because, this person has a problem or a disease. And so as much as I could until I got caught here and there with questions about, have you had too much coffee today? Well, why would you ask? Well, you're shaking pretty good. I'm like, oh boy, okay. So yeah, it's one of those things where you don't want people to treat you differently or look at you differently or to not allow you to do things because you have an expiry date,
Coming out, though, so to speak, with your diagnosis did help. Can you talk about the importance of a support system when you're dealing with a chronic illness?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking back now, I wish, my grandmother actually had Parkinson's disease, and I was holding a golf tournament, and every year you pick a charity to represent. And I said, well, why don't we do Parkinson's this year? And at the end of the golf tournament, normally, you get up and say a few words on what this charity means to you. And something had come over me when I had been sitting there and listening to different people, and I just decided right then and there that maybe this was going to be my coming out party. And, I kind of got up and said, this is what Parkinson's means to me, because I actually have Parkinson's. And what was really interesting about it is, I did 300 people, every one of them, staying behind to talk to me and thank me for sharing and opening up and being vulnerable, and also finding out that there's so many different connections. My uncle had Parkinson's, and not just Parkinson's. I deal with this or I deal with that, and the more that I came out with it, the more that people would be, I guess, free to what they're going through as well. And looking back, I wish I would have done it years sooner.
What has this pandemic been like for you, and especially your access to care?
It's difficult, right? Because, exercise, for example, is very important to Parkinson's. And, there's a lot of people in different exercise programs that they were cut off from. Regular doctor's appointments, when you have Parkinson's, you have a regular set schedule where you're going over your medication and going over, kind of where you're at and different kind of, it's a progressive disease, which is always changing. So there's always things that are coming up. And when you don't have to be able to access those things, and, especially around Winnipeg, there's some really good groups and some different programs. And when you get cut off from that, it's very, very difficult to be shut in, and to be able to maybe push yourself to do that exercise on your own and things like that.
Bryce, it was really great meeting and speaking with you today. Thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.